Hello. Welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. As a disclaimer, this channel is for entertainment purposes. These are my opinions, not here to slander anyone. So let's get started. Today, I just want to discuss something that's been on my mind, and maybe y'all can help me with this. There's been a lot of talk, especially since Steve G had that interview, quite a while back, where he talked about how the potential injuries on Kaylee was more significant than the rest. And that led a lot of people to believe that maybe she was the target. What I want to do is I want to put that under a microscope in this one, and I also want to discuss another aspect of this case that I don't think is discussed enough. But I want to put a microscope under that first scenario and see if we can, keep it. We can see if we can keep it holding water. To start off, when you look at the King Road house, if everything went according to, the narrative that's out there, the assailant would have been scoping out the house, driving by it, trying to determine when everybody went to bed. I would imagine would be like lights going off in the house and things of that nature so that, he could make his move. And then once he realized all the lights were out and the timing was right, parked his car and he went in and committed the atrocity. But when you go up to the third floor room and you find out that the two roommates are actually in that room together in bed, the lights are out, does the assailant turn on the lights before he commits the crime? Let's think about that for just a minute. I don't think he would, because turning on the lights would draw attention, and doing something like that, the last thing that I think that he would want would be attention. So if he did this in the dark, in a small area, and there's a bed with two very young ladies that are almost the exact same age, almost have the exact same hair color, similar in body size. I mean, they look like sisters, don't they? They look very similar to each other. Can you imagine in the dark, in a bed with covers over them? Is there any way that assailant could have determined who was who in a adrenaline-filled moment of rage? Do you think he really knew, this one here is Maddie, this one here is Kaylee. So this is my target, and this is the one I'm really after. I don't think so. In my humble opinion, I don't think he could tell which one was which when he went in there, because it's dark and they're too similar. So for one of them to have more wounds than the other, I don't think would be indicative, in my opinion, of that one being more of a emotional target. It would probably be more indicative of that one, putting up more of a struggle. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to hear your thoughts on that. And let's take a look at this real quick. In most of their pictures, you can see they even have the same hairstyle, much less the same hair color. I mean, these two young ladies were obviously excellent friends, and they were just very similar in appearance. I do not see how somebody in the dark could tell the two apart in a bed during an adrenaline-filled situation like that. I think it would be impossible. So again, when you're thinking of that scenario, just remember how similar in appearance those two really were. Now here's the other thing that I wanted to discuss, and I don't think it's discussed enough. Did the person who went in and committed this atrocity know what they were doing? Were they trained in this? Had they done it before? And the reason I ask is when I was in high school, I believe I was in the 10th grade, I sat next to a young African-American kid in my English class. I remember his name was Chris. And he was a cool kid. Him and I would talk every day in English. I mean, he was just, I liked him a lot. I mean, that was my English buddy. Well, the next year, I didn't see Chris in my school anywhere, so I assumed that he must have transferred to another school there in town. And he did. And one night, I was watching the news, and it said that a kid at that other school in town had brutally stabbed one of his teachers 75 times. And I remember thinking, goodness, who would stab their teacher? And then they popped the kid's picture on the screen, and I went, oh my God. That's Chris from my English class, the cool kid. And to say the least, I was in shock. But the other thing that was very curious is, thank goodness he didn't kill her. Stabbed her 75 times, but she lived. And you know, I believe most people who are stabbed actually live. Did you know that? You know what the mortality rate is on stabbing? Let's take a look. So here are the fatal stab wound percentages. And you can see this was a study that was done by a medical group, I believe last year, but it says a third of the patients with gunshot wounds, 33%, they perished compared with 7.7% of the patients with stab wounds. So that means out of 100 people that made it to the hospital that had been stabbed, less than 8 actually perished. That means 92 survived. So when we talk about a situation like this with 4 young, healthy individuals and they all 4 perish from stab wounds, that tells a story in itself there, I think. So if only 7% of people actually perish when a stabbing occurs, and all 4 of our victims in this case absolutely perished, does that point to a non-experienced, non-knowledgeable assailant? Or does that point to folks that really knew what they were doing? Well, to me it points to folks that really knew what they were doing. And I think that is just the fact that there were no survivors is a clear indication of that. But I just wanted to get this one out there just to have something to discuss, because I think those are important aspects of this case. But again, please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your thoughts, your criticisms. I enjoy hearing everything that you have to say. And until next time, Pavarotti's out.